Geno Auriemma has officially become the all-time winningest college basketball coach, beating Fairleigh Dickinson University Wednesday night. He now has 1,217 wins compared to 162 losses, which, I mean, whatever you think of him, that's an insane record, by the way. But
now, is this the all-time winningest coach, men and women?
Yeah, men and women, the most successful of all time. I believe he surpassed, he surpassed Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer, who had surpassed Pat Summitt because he'd been coaching for so long. And so now Geno Auriemma is number one. I believe the winningest in men's basketball is Mike Krzyzewski. And he has 1,202. So right now the rankings are: 1 is Geno Auriemma, 2 is Mike Krzyzewski, 3 I'm not Mike, excuse me, 2 is Tara Vanderveer, 3 is Mike Krzyzewski, and 4 is Pat Summitt. That's the top 4 men's and women's all-time winningest head coaches.
Let me tell you something.
And then 5 is Vivian Stringer.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, sure.
Mike Krzyzewski is more likely to win a national title than Geno Auriemma is to win another one.
Well, Mike Krzyzewski's not coaching anymore.
I know. But if he decided tomorrow that he wanted to come back with the team they have and a huge guy that's like a mini Victor Wembanyama that can shoot the three, he could win one this year. Geno Auriemma had to have a special coach, and I think you would a special player, and he was not a special coach. And that sounds weird to say with as many of the national championships as he won. But you went into an average season back then with 4 teams, maybe that could win it. And some seasons, it was just readily apparent that it was the Lady Vols and UConn, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not an X's and O's guy. He was a great recruiter. He was able to win enough battles against Tennessee to win championships. Kudos to him, but that ship has sailed. Our poll question is this. Do you even worry about Geno anymore? Yep, can still win championships. 38% of the vote. No to even. Caleb, if I made you vote on that, I want to see what you think as we remind you portions of the program brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. For Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. For you now. You ready?
That's hot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of P. Diddy. So the first one is, are you even worried? If you're a Lady Vols fan, are you even worried about Geno Auriemma, or is he just another dude? Or
He's
just another coach. Sorry.
He's just another coach. I mean, he hasn't won a national title in 8 years.
I agree. I'm going to take it a step further. You ready for this one?
Yep.
This one is hot. Real hot. Paris?
That's hot.
Who's more likely to win a natty? Josh Heupel or Geno Auriemma?
I'm still going to go Geno on that.
No.
You think it's Josh Heupel?
I do, and I didn't know if I wanted you to agree with me or not, because I feel strongly that Heupel is a better football coach, X's and O's wise, than Geno is a good basketball coach. Again, I think Geno got the benefit from women's college basketball getting bigger, so he was able to get more prominent recruits. And I think that Josh Heupel is going to be able to do that based off the success that Tennessee has been able to have in the past 3 years. Let's say they make the college football playoff. Let's say they're a 10-win team. You don't go into any living room saying this is a rebuilding program, Caleb. You don't. And you don't have to have just one guy. Geno has to have a couple of different gals to help him out. And I don't think he can do that at a high level. He's older now. If I had to bet the mortgage right now on who wins the championship, to me, it's not even close. I'm putting my money on Josh Heupel.
Okay, so here's you are right about Geno Auriemma that it's almost like the John Calipari of women's basketball, that he used certain connections, the ESPN building right there. There were some Nike ties that were happening that allowed him to just recruit the way John Calipari does. And the difference between Geno and John Calipari is when you recruit women's basketball stars, they don't leave after a year. So you get these guys, you get these players, and they are there for 4 years. So of course they're going to be dominant. So I get your point on that. So maybe you're right, but I do think sometimes you enter such a level of credibility because of your success that it becomes very easy to recruit even as the sport gets more competitive. I think
Caleb, though, if he walks in a prospect's home right now, you pointed it out. If that prospect's 17 years old, the last time that Geno won it all, they were 9.
Yeah, but Dave, he just passed Tara Vanderveer as the all-time winningest coach, who was at Stanford. I just want to point this out. Tara Vanderveer was Pat Summitt's main rival in the late 80s, early 90s. She won 2 national titles that were sandwiched between Pat Summitt's 3 national titles during that time period. Her last one was 92. Tara Vanderveer then went 30 years without a national title, and everybody said the game had passed her by, and then she won one in 2021. So, I mean, things can happen really fast. Now, I want to say this because we have to point out the elephant in the room. Let's give Geno credit on this. I agree with you on X's and O's. We don't know how good he is. He was smart in how he used his resources to recruit well. Can we say that? He was ahead of that was intelligent. What you're saying, we kind of have to apply to Pat Summitt. I mean, let's be honest. When Pat Summitt took over at Tennessee, she took over a program. And for those who don't know the history of this, Tennessee was one of the only schools in the South to embrace Title IX when it happened in 71. I mean, Tennessee was ahead of the curve. They fully embraced Title IX, and Tennessee had high school basketball in the state since the 40s. Tennessee was one of 4 states that had women's high school basketball pre-World War II. So they had so Pat Summitt had a giant crop of talent to recruit from that other coaches didn't have. She had a school embracing Title IX. She was ahead of the curve. She demanded the high schools at Tennessee get rid of that. I don't know if you know how basketball used to be played in women's high school basketball, David. It was like 4 on one end and 3 on one end and 3 on the other, offense and defense. And Pat Summitt's like, I can't recruit these players. You got to change. And she did. And she kept Tennessee ahead of the curve because she embraced women's basketball. She helped build the brand, and her help building the brand is what helped her recruit so well. But is there anything, I mean, let me just ask you, X's and O's, Pat Summitt or Geno Auriemma, or neither?
I would take Pat Summitt. And I think Pat Summitt would have adapted. God rest her soul. A couple of comments on the message board. Dave Heupel already has one. Sorry. The undefeated season at UCF is not a national.
No. They're talking about he played and won one.
Oh, okay. No. I meant coach. Sorry. Maybe I didn't put that out there clearly enough. And then ultimately, do you think Kim can win a national title? I hate to cop out, but I just don't know at this point.
We talked about this before we're going in the show. Can I tell you why Kim Caldwell is the most home run hire that has ever been made by an athletic director?
That's hot.
Lay it on me.
And you said this, and I'm going to take it further. When you're an athletic director, you have to weigh the balance of wanting to win with wanting to draw in fans and marketing and with your budget. You have to weigh those 3 things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, football, you just go with wanting to win. I think basketball, if you think you got a national title, coach, you just go with wanting to win. But if you think you just got a perennial contender, you may want to go for more entertainment, which is like when Tennessee hired Bruce Pearl. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Women's basketball, you really got to think of the budget because you're the one who tells me like that it's not a revenue generating sport yet still. And what did Danny White do with Kim Caldwell? He found a coach on the cheap that, by the way, runs a system that is the most entertaining system you could possibly see. So while he got her for cheap, her style is the best thing you could hope for to at least maximize the amount of revenue you could generate from the sport. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
How is that not a home run hire in those two things? He got her on the cheap while she will maximize the possible revenue for the Lady Vols with her style. If she wins a national title, Dave, Danny White got the trifecta. Because can we say this? Is this unfortunate? When you look for a women's basketball coach, budget and marketing outweigh winning.
It sounds weird to say, doesn't it? Let me ask you this. So let's say Paul Bear Bryant comes back to life and he's the head coach for a team and he walks in there with his reputation. Is that bigger than NIL and current things that all these programs have going on? I mean, Geno Auriemma is 70. I don't think he goes in and wins any recruiting battle because of his name. I also don't think that he has the time or near the energy to recruit 5, 6, 7, 8 girls. I think that he focused on one girl, zoned in on her, and that was it.
No, he would go back and look at the recruiting rankings. He would focus. He started by doing that, and that's how he got Rebecca Lobo and Diana Taurasi. But then, as later, like during the Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart years, those were the stars. And then it was like 7 deep of players that were just better than everybody else in women's basketball during that time, and it was insane. You bring up the Bear Bryant question. I mean, people say, this is why Nick Saban retired. We can talk about that. I still think the credibility of a coach helps them recruit because you talk about it all the time. Stop tripping over nickels and chase the dollars, as John Calipari says. I think there's going to be a lot of kids that I'll say this with Bear Bryant. You brought him up specifically. I want to take him in a vacuum. No, he wouldn't be able to recruit well because, Dave, I don't know if you know this, but during the Bear Bryant days, Alabama wasn't a factory for NFL talent the way they were under Nick Saban.
You mean the state?
No, the school, the program.
Well,
like Tennessee was.
Yeah, both the state and the program have changed drastically under Bear Bryant.
Now they are.
I'm sorry, Nick Saban.
Under Nick Saban. Now they are a factory for NFL talent. That's how Saban built them. Bear Bryant did not recruit. They were almost like Nebraska of the SEC, where they dominated the SEC with kids that just their whole life's goal was to play football for Alabama, wasn't it, during that time? And they didn't expect to go to the NFL. So that was much more common with Alabama during the Bear Bryant days. I know everybody thinks Ken Stabler, Joe Namath, but what I just talked about was more common. Nick Saban dominated with Alabama by turning it into a factory for NFL talent.
You know what he did, though? You just brought up something weird that was similar to Geno Auriemma. When it came to Stabler, when it came to Namath, he got the jewel of the class, did he not? I don't know if you know this, but Joe Namath could 362-handed dunk. Did you know that before the knee injuries?
I did not know that, actually.
He was an amazing athlete. There was no question that he was the jewel of that class before we had recruiting rankings.
Well, but you also have to remember, those were the 60s. Bear Bryant changed his offense completely in the 70s when he ran the wishbone. There was no jewel of the class when you ran the wishbone offense, Dave. There was no jewel at that point.
I think Tommy Frazier's a pretty good jewel.
That was a power eye, and that was way in the 90s, and that was a unique get. Who was the jewel of Tom Osborne's teams before that? Turner Gill in the 80s? He wasn't a jewel.
Fair.